Good day, podcast community. PeteKane here, community builder and author and podcaster. And we have two special guests. And when I heard them talk at a meeting that we were talking about the challenges in the senior living community and the association and what they're doing to help solve these problems, I wanted them to be a guest on the podcast. So thank you all for your time and for sharing with our community the impact that you're making. So let's introduce who you are, what you do, and who you serve. And let's start with Amy, then we'll go to Victoria after that.
Right. Well, good morning, Pete. It's great to be on. And I met you a few years back at a health fair.
I remember.
And you made such a great impression on me, and you do a great job of talking about what you do and how you do it and how you support organizations like NPRA. So we thank you for the opportunity to be on. I am Amy Henschel. I am co-president of NPRA along with Victoria. I'll let her introduce herself. We are also owners of, and I say us, I'm not split personality, but I do have a counterpart with me. Hans, my husband, we have founded and owned Senior Provisions for 15 years now in Greater Atlanta, and we cover the Southeast, out of Nashville, North Florida, Alabama, and North and South Carolina. We are an agency that works with families, helping them to find senior care and senior living. Your mom and pop and boots on the ground organization. So that's what we do, and that's who we are.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy. So Victoria, would you introduce yourself, who you do, who you are, what you do, and who you serve?
Thank you, Pete, and thank you for having Amy and I on your show this morning. I too have known you and watched you grow with your podcast for a number of years. I think this might be my first time actually being on your podcast. I'm thrilled to be on this morning with you, and just applaud your success and your tenacity and sticking with us all these years. I am Victoria Archibald. I am a co-president with Amy of the NPRA, which is the National Placement and Referral Alliance, Georgia chapter. My day job is as a certified senior advisor and owner of Care Patrol Metro Atlanta. I have owned Care Patrol Metro Atlanta for almost 13 years in the metropolitan area, and we have been blessed to serve many, many seniors and their families over that 12 plus year period. Again, just thank you so much for having us on your show this morning.
It's my pleasure. You know, I'm a firm believer in providing people with solutions. And, you know, when they meet you and know that you have been doing this for years, you have relationships in the community that can help them in their journey. Tell us a little bit about, let's go Victoria first, and then we'll go to Amy. Tell us, what was the brain thrust behind NPRA? Why did you establish a Georgia chapter, and what do you do out there to help our seniors?
That's an excellent place to start, Pete. So Amy and I have known each other practically, for me, the entire time I've been in the senior advisory community or industry. And interestingly enough, she and I and several other folks who do similar to what we do, whenever we see each other, we'd always talk about, we need to form an organization. We need to get together. We need to have a group that, we could just support each other in what we do. Because at the end of the day, while we do similar things, our heart and our passion is to help people and to help seniors. And so ultimately, about 3 years ago, I reached out to Amy and a couple other folks and said, okay, we've been talking about this for a number of years, let's just go ahead and do it. So we started an organization, kind of it wasn't anything formal. It was just a group of owners of companies, of senior advisory service companies. We started an organization and we called ourselves the Atlanta Placement Coalition.
Mm-hmm.
And we met monthly, and we basically would share best practices and inform each other on things that we knew would be beneficial to our families.
Mm-hmm.
Not sharing anything that was, not kosher in terms of how we operate our businesses, but just general information.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many communities, and the senior living community in Atlanta is so large and complex that it's hard for any one person to get their arms around everything that's going on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
So it was really to kind of keep all of us in a loop on, I heard this building is opening, or this building is closing, or this building is having problems with this or that or the other. And so we did that for about 3 years. And there were a couple of folks in our group who kept saying, maybe we should start an NPRA chapter. But, we were kind of skeptical of that. We thought that might be a little bit too much responsibility for all of us. We are small business owners.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt a little overwhelming and a little scary. But eventually, I guess earlier this year, I, for one, said, again, I think it's time that we elevate ourselves to something that has more structure. Mm-hmm. And that has a more of a brand associated with it. And so we talked again and reached out to Amy, and we talked again. We said, okay, we've worked well together these last 3 years. Let's elevate what we've been doing and try to get this chapter up and running. And that's what we did. We launched probably in February, I think. Mm-hmm. Formally, and it's just been it's exceeded both of our both of our expectations to this point.
Yeah, that is wonderful. I'm a Rotarian, and I'll occasionally ask people, like, what are they doing to serve in the community, and people say, well, what's Rotary? And they don't know what it is, and sometimes we're in our bubbles of what we do. And we don't realize outside of that bubble, people have no idea what's going on. So, Amy, give us a little example of a person that can benefit by knowing you and Victoria and the organization, and what type of things you're helping them with.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Victoria, for that background. And when we were at the Atlanta Placement Coalition, what drew us together then is what really is our strength as an NPRA Georgia chapter, and that is holding each other accountable to best practices in the business industry and in the senior care industry. And we have a code of ethics that we all agree to follow. And we have an internal system, honestly, that holds us accountable. Mm-hmm. We have 4 pillars that we have leads and leadership over. And one of those pillars is the ethics and best practices pillar. And so if there is any kind of issue going on among our membership and any concerns or questions, that's brought to them. And then we have an open discussion about it. And there's a process for that. The other thing that benefits, so internally for us, we call ourselves the good actors, and there's good actors and bad actors, yes. And none of us are perfect, but being reminded month after month of and so our leads will come on in our meetings and share, okay, here's the best practice to focus on this month. And for example, it may be to make sure that as we're advising families, that we are not just advising them to businesses and communities that we will benefit financially from, but that we're truly meeting unique needs of that family. So those are the type of things that we've been doing for years as businesses. So it was great to kind of come together under this NPRA umbrella and say, we are the ones who are standing the line and advocating for families. So to answer your question, not only do each of the agency members benefit from information exchanged, additional training, opportunities to come together and grow our businesses and grow our professional skill sets, but also our affiliate members. We have affiliate members and we have senior living community members. And so they have an opportunity to interact monthly with us, host meetings for us. They also have to agree to the best practices and to the ethics to be a member. And so I always say, if I'm asked for a resource by a family, if it's out of the area I cover, I'm going to an NPRA agency member. I'm going to say to the family, here's someone you can trust in, Middle Florida and Central Florida, and here's someone you can trust in, Indiana. And then just even locally, we've got commitments from affiliate members that represent home care and elder law, home health and hospice. And they're saying, we like what NPRA represents. We agree to these ethics. We agree, and we want to be a part of what you all are doing and represent to families. So families benefit greatly by using an NPRA member because they know that we have accountability to one another and to them.
Ooh, that's so beautiful. I like to always say, together we're better. And, the collective energy and the skills of a group of people is always going to benefit the person that's seeking that. So, Victoria, when the journey of 1,000 miles starts with that first step, what was the most challenging thing in starting that you could share with our viewers? Because sometimes we like to do things and we talk about it, but doing it and talking about it are two different things. So what was the biggest challenge when you were putting the chapter together?
That's a great question. I think from my perspective, the biggest challenge was really convincing the members of the Atlanta Placement Coalition to trust us and be a part of creating this chapter. I think there were people, myself included, that had maybe some concern about being sort of, I guess, having more constraints, if you will, where we were kind of a loosey-goosey, we sort of operated, we kind of came up with our own rules, and, our goals were similar and our mission was similar, but we didn't have a structure or framework under which we operated. Now we do. And, now there are very well-defined, processes in place that we follow in terms of our meetings and our board and all of that stuff. And I think some people were just, change is hard for all of us, whether,
Yes.
we see it with our seniors, but it's hard for us folks that are younger as well. And it was, I think, a little bit of the fear of the unknown and how much time commitment and all of that. So I think that was the biggest challenge, is that we just had to ask people to trust us. The great thing about, and I think one of the things that really has helped our chapter just grow exponentially, is that we had kind of normed and formed and stormed over 3 years. And so there was a trust factor because we had been working together for 3 years. So there was a trust factor for the 17 or 18 companies that had been part of the APC moving into the NPRA that helped us to be able to do it pretty seamlessly. I mean, we haven't had any knockdown dragouts, because we by and large, we trust each other because we've gotten to know each other.
Yes.
And there was familiarity there. And so, but yeah, there was some skepticism or maybe some concern about, what is this thing? And, the NPRA, I will say, this is a national trade organization for companies that compete in the referral and placement arena. And so we want to try to do things the right way. We want to serve our families and our seniors at the highest possible level, exceeding their expectations all the way. And we also want to partner with our senior living communities. We want to have a symbiotic relationship with them, not a love-hate, but a respectful give and take relationship, because at the end of the day, we're kind of all in it for the same reason. We want to see seniors live their best lives. So, but yeah, I think that was some of the initial concerns.
Awesome. So, Amy, reflecting and looking back, we can always see how we've learned in the journey. So if you were giving advice to a 20-year-old Amy, what would be the one bit of advice you would give her that would help our listeners understand your journey and what you've been learning in the industry?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. So I think back, and I think more of the 24-year-old Amy, 20-year-old. So Hans and I were married at 22. So I would say my 20-year-old Amy was probably focused on getting married. So my 24-year-old Amy, who had been married for 2 years, then started her journey professionally. And I had great opportunity right out of college to work for a little company called McKesson. And McKesson was huge. I mean, it was either McKesson or it was Cardinal. And those were the two big ones. They were huge. Medicare billing and third-party billing. And if I could go back, I would remind her that be patient and soak up everything you can in the moment. Learn as much as you can, because looking back now, I have the advantage to look back and go, God is preparing you for what he's preparing you for. Every step of the way, every knowledge I learned, any conversation I had with mentors in these different companies, and then made a leap over when we came to Atlanta to Sunrise Senior Living, which was an incredible experience, and really gave me the foundation for the business we're running now. The understanding of what is senior living. It's not, and I always remember this, this is my go-to phrase. We are talking about people, hands-on caregiving for other people. And if you have the right heart and you have the right training, you still are going to fall short. We're imperfection embodied. And so the difference is, over the years, I would look back and I'd say, learn from your mistakes, don't dwell on them, but learn from them, and soak up everything you can in the moment, because you never know where tomorrow is going to lead you. And this is probably preparing you for that tomorrow.
That is beautiful. So Victoria, so if you had to look back and give that advice to that 20-year-old or 24, what advice would you give Victoria at that age?
To be patient. My 18, 20, 24-year-old, 34-year-old self was fairly impatient. I wanted to get to wherever I thought I was going to go as fast as possible. And sometimes I think I made hasty decisions because I thought the next step would get me to where I wanted to go, or thought I wanted to go much quicker. And I think, in hindsight, had I kind of slowed down and really kind of evaluated and marinated on some decisions much longer than I did, I might have avoided stepping into some potholes along the way. So definitely would tell my 20-year-old self to exercise extreme patience and caution before making because we hear the phrase and we use the phrase, the grass is not always greener on the other side. Usually it isn't greener, but we think it is. Yep. And I was, at 20 years old, I was very ambitious. I hadn't graduated from college yet. So I was just to get my degree so I could go into my professional career and make lots of money and have this incredible career, which I did have an incredible career, but I think I was incredibly impatient and wanting things to happen much sooner than they needed to happen, or I needed them to happen. So
awesome. That is good advice. Yeah, that's just we sometimes get ahead of ourselves in our journey. We're seeing AI change this world very rapidly, and I always like to remind people we got HI, human intelligence, and we'll always have that, and it'll always trump whatever we're doing in AI. However, AI is getting kind of a negative kind of for younger people. They'll make announcements, like somebody will be talking at a commencement and they'll mention AI, and a lot of the younger people are booing. I want, Amy, if you could share a relationship tip, because I think it doesn't matter how fast technology goes, relationships are so critical to our business success. What would you say to that younger person about relationships that you could share with us today?
That's a great question. I thought you were going to ask me about AI. So we talk a lot at our monthly staff meetings about relationships. And, there's so many great phrases out there that are just true. People don't remember necessarily what you say to them, but they'll remember how you make them feel.
Yes.
We had a major challenge as our organization was founding early in the year with some legislation that came out. And, we all had about 2 days to prepare our arguments, our stance for or against or somewhere in between this legislation. And we had a moment that we had to sit in front of, and for most of us, never had been in front of a Senate committee hearing, never sat and had to testify under oath or, on record, and articulate in what we thought we would have 4 minutes, and it really was only 2 minutes. So I would say, and this is what we tell our staff too, is entering into a crisis with a family, the most important thing is, first and foremost, let them know that you care. You let them know that you genuinely care. And how do we do that? First, we listen. Second, we ask questions. And so it's so important that we start our conversations with, reassuring comment. I'm sorry you're going through this. I am genuinely, concerned what's going on with your mom and your dad. And at the end of the day, reassuring them that we're going to figure this out together. So we're going to problem solve for you. We've got resources. And if I don't have something right off the bat, I'm going to find something for you. So building that established, what do you want to call rapport? But I think ultimately it's just showing humanity to someone who's hurting, stressed. They may be angry. They may be calling you because they have a 30-day discharge from a community that can no longer meet their needs. And they're hopping mad about having to move their parent. Assuring them that we're going to figure this out. But first of all, reassuring them that we hear them and we understand on some level what they're going through. And for many of us who have gone through caregiving, sometimes we understand firsthand what they're going through.
Yes.
So that would be my relationship.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. So Victoria, when it comes to relationships, just like Amy shared, what would you say to that younger person about a relationship tip that would help them navigate those years of going through the journey of just growing and building a business? What would you share with them?
I am looking real quick because I am getting up in age, so sometimes I need a little help remembering things. My best advice and tip would be anybody, young, older, or in between, is to read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
A classic
book. That book, and I read it kind of midpoint in my corporate America stint. But that book was transformative to me. And not that I practice every habit perfectly, because I don't. And oftentimes I have to go back and remind myself of those habits. But I think the one habit that I try to recall and think back and reflect on the most is the one that says, seek first to understand rather than to be understood. And it kind of doves in with what Amy said about listening. You know, if we approach a situation with the attitude that we want to understand what the other person's perspective is, rather than have them understand what our opinion is or our perspective, I think we can get a whole lot more out of the relationship, out of the conversation, out of the situation. And so the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey is absolutely and should be required reading starting in high school, if not before.
Yes.
Because it really is an amazing, I mean, it's for me, it's biblical in nature. It's a lot to do with, the golden rule, but it just, the way he wrote it and the way he explains it, if we follow it, if we practice it the best we can, we're not perfect, so we will make mistakes. That's a given. But if we try to use that more as our guide in terms of how we want to interact and engage with other people, I think we will come out much, much better in the end. Yeah.
I totally agree. That is so good. Now, here's my AI question, Amy. So, it's moving fast. We're of age where we didn't grow up with technology. We're always kind of like playing catch up. What is your best? I'll go Amy first and then Victoria, the same question. What's your best advice for somebody at this stage of their career to embrace AI and use it as a tool to help us better in our business?
Yeah. So I have always had a personal mantra my entire life. And that is if you're not changing, you're probably stagnant. And that goes whether you are 20 years old, 40 years old, 80 years old. I have a 104-year-old grandmother. And I guarantee you, from the age of 90 to where she is now, it's been almost 15 years. She's lost a husband. She has changed living environments. Her body continues to fail in different ways. And the change is happening, and you can embrace it and harness it, leverage it, whatever word you want to choose. Or you can ignore it. And I know there is a trend out there among the younger people. They feel that it's stealing a level of creativity. And I am not particularly strong in decor and decoration and graphics. Now, my husband's incredibly gifted. He's an architect, he's a designer. A lot of what you have seen from us over 15 years has been from his mind. So I appreciate creativity and that nuance. But when you are running a business and you are problem solving at a rapid speed, I think to compete in this day, using a tool like AI is incredibly helpful. And so I think there is a balance that you have to strike. And, you know, if you are feeding in prompts that give complete control to AI on the creativity, come up with an idea for, you know, compose an email to so-and-so for me. And you're not giving genuine, authentic, original content from your brain and your mind and the heart that God created in you, you won't connect with that content. And here's the bigger thing is the audience out there is pretty savvy. And now when you're scrolling through social media, you can, and now it's kind of all identified. This is AI content. This is an AI flyer. And that's fine. And we utilize a lot of those tools for sake of time, but I always make sure that our branding, our culture as a company, and our audience is being considered whenever we are putting out content, because no one knows your business and your culture more than you do. No computer, no other person. I would say no more would you turn over all of your intellectual property content building to a stranger. You shouldn't turn it over to a computer program. So that's kind of is use it in a measured way. If you're researching a new market, we've done a lot with new markets. It has saved us so much time going through an AI search versus a Google search, that we can come up with, you know, demographics and you know, state surveys and all of that kind of data information. I think is superior use. Now, are we looking to hire someone in a new market? We got to rely on our tried and true practices.
Right. Yeah. That is so good. You know, 4 years ago, I was having a discussion with my partner, and he would say, Pete, how are you using AI in your business? And I said, no, I'm just having a good time doing podcasting. So I don't want to just, I'm not interested in that. But he would keep asking me that. And it wasn't until I had my moment when I put together a program and gave AI the structure of what I wanted to do that I had my AI moment where I just went, oh my gosh, this would have taken me 6 months to a year to 2 years to do. And it did it in literally 10 minutes of just a couple prompts. Victoria, have you had an AI moment where you went, oh my gosh, this is powerful, that you could share?
Yeah, so I tend not to be on the cutting edge of technology. That's just not how I work. But I gotta tell you, I have even surprised myself at how much I have embraced AI.
Mm-hmm.
I remember getting my first smartphone. I remember getting my performance coach that is all over AI. I mean, that she lives, breathes, eats, walks, talks, sleeps AI. And she has taught us so much about how to use the tool for just practical stuff. So one of the things that she did is she taught me, and I'm I'm so far on the unteachable spectrum, but I used it. I wanted to research a new referral source, and I didn't know anybody in this organization. I only knew the organization's name, and I went into AI and I started asking questions. When it finished, I had the names of the two social workers. I had the mission of the organization. I knew what their pain points were. I knew something about those social workers, who was the lead case manager and who was the secondary. And I took that information and
I'm just flooded with faces coming through. My first two kind of supervisors, I worked for two salesmen who they thought it was so funny that I actually had to have a urine test to get onboarded with McKesson, a drug test. They always say, they started the company with a handshake in the J.C. Penney parking lot. That was their comments. And I think I go back to kind of old school learning. It was always, and this is great in light of the conversation we're having about AI, is that when it comes down to it, it's people. And it's how you are, again, listening and helping problem solve and putting yourself in their shoes first. McKesson was my first company that we had the Franklin Covey system. That was a big training for us. The other mentor is not really a direct mentor for me, but when we started our company, I had a dear friend, sweet sister in Christ, handed me a book, and it was Success God's Way by Charles Stanley. And I read that book from cover to cover, and because if you have a faith in a higher being, and you have a book in front of you that is defining success the way that higher being is defining success through scripture, through prayer, through lessons, I just devoured it. And I thought, well, maybe there's something in here, because I've gone through the Franklin Covey system. I've gone through spin training. I've gone through the longest training I ever went through was how to get your point across in 30 seconds or less. I remember sitting there thinking, well, this isn't really getting their point across in 30 seconds or less. It was such a contradiction. Yeah. So I thought maybe there's a different way to think about approaching success, owning my own company. And so the powerful thing is, and I tell our team this all the time, and I think it applies to our organization of NPRA. It's so easy to measure success by how many members do we have, how many, what's your revenue goal, what's your, how many folks are you helping each month, how many referrals are you winning? But our culture at our company, and my personal, is we measure success in different ways, because there are so many ups and downs, and the numbers don't always tell the story. And so I tell all our new employees that come on board, there's going to be a learning curve and there's going to be a success curve. And we're going to measure results. But at the end of the day, from week to week, we're going to measure success in different ways. So I was so influenced. That would be who I would put in my category as a mentor, Charles Stanley. Never met the man, but was so influenced by that book and his insight into how to define success.
That is so good. I went to my high school reunion, 50th high school reunion, and everybody's like at that age where they're retiring and they're saying, well, Pete, when are you retiring? And I said, never, never. I'm just doing something different, challenging myself. So Victoria, how do you challenge yourself? I mean, challenging and reinventing ourselves are so important for the brain. What do you do on a daily basis or on a regular basis that challenges Victoria?
Well, in the work that we do, in the work that Amy and I do, no 2 days are the same. Mm-hmm. Literally, the people we talk to, even though their solution might look the same, their stories are so different. How they got to where they are so different. And so the challenge for me is always to really listen to what they're saying and figure out what are the right solutions, or what is the right solution for this particular situation, or this particular senior, or this particular family. Because the next call I get is going to be a different story, and they're going to need a different solution. Mm-hmm. So the work I do is just inherently challenging. It's inherently, different, hour to hour, certainly day to day, week to week. And sometimes that's exhausting, to be frank. It's exhausting, because at the end of the day, it's like, oh gosh, I've talked to, 6 or 7 folks, and some of them I could help and some of them I couldn't. And but it's also invigorating, because it helps me, it keeps me grounded to know that there are a lot of hurting people out there, and I am truly blessed. No matter how much I think I don't have, or need more of, I always see and know that there are people who would give anything just to have what I have. Not that I have a lot, but so it keeps me grounded, but it also keeps me humble. It keeps me incredibly humble.
Beautiful.
And so, every day is just, it's every day I look forward to starting the day, because I never know how it's going to unfold. This is not like, not to bash accountants, but it's not like I'm an accountant and I know I've got these reports to do every day, and every month the same reports I'm spitting out. It's like every single day, and within the day, things are going to be different from hour to hour and day to day. So that keeps me on my toes.
Beautiful. I want to use another C word, and I want to ask Amy on this. I've been able to get a lot of the stuff I used to stay in the weeds with AI, higher level things, which has unleashed a creative side of me that I never knew existed. How are you leaning into being the creative Amy that God has created us to be? Have you done anything that you could share with our viewers that has helped you to move closer to being more creative with your time?
We empty nested a few years back, sent our last off to college, and now she's starting grad school. So, for me, being a mom was so all encompassing, and trying to run a company, it was a lot to balance. Besides taking a few moments to, go for a walk, or, join ladies, on a book night or something, I didn't really have the freedom to do all that. So when I empty nested, I did 2 things creatively. I started watercoloring, and picked back up playing the cello. And cello became, it's just like, when you have this kind of driven personality, then suddenly you have to be the best at that. So I started taking lessons. All of this. I played in the church orchestra. And I don't really have time for all those things anymore. But here's, I think, my heart for creativity is I am a relational person. I know that about me. That fills my soul, having conversations. And there is no more sanctification or keeping you on your toes, as Victoria said, than dealing daily with our families, but also with our team. We have a group of 9 individuals right now who I work with and interact with day in and day out. And as much as parenting was humbling, managing people is even more humbling. And I feel like that's probably where I've grown the most. And I just want to publicly say how sorry I am to all the folks that worked for me early on. Because I learned a lot from the mistakes I made and learned. So that's where I think I've gotten the most creative, is taking a pause. And again, just what is going on in their life right now. And how, in fact, I just had an interview yesterday. My last question to this young lady was, how do you receive feedback? And how do you prefer to receive it? And how do you prefer to be communicated with? And that's where I've gotten the most creative, is figuring out, is this someone that just wants to be trained and let go? Or is this someone that I need to gradually offboard? So that to me has been the biggest outlet for me, is the relationship creativity, and incredibly humbling. Victoria said the word humble. Yes.
There's something magical about being humble in how we approach people, approach situations. I've learned a couple things in my last 4 years that if you'd have told me that I would be meditating and journaling, I would have told you you're crazy, because I didn't do any of them till about 4 years ago. Let me ask this to Victoria. Is there anything that you do today that you go, whoa, I never would have been doing this, that you have discovered that's really helped ground you and help you in your journey?
It probably was a little longer than 4 years ago. It might have been more like 9 years ago, 10 years ago. But when I moved back to Atlanta in 2014, I joined a church here. And it was really the first time I had gotten very involved in Bible study to the extent that this church, required, or not. I mean, they didn't require, well, they did require it. I mean, you had 6 weeks of orientation before you could join. And then, the pastor who I sort of did orientation with, encouraged me to continue on, because he was leading other Bible studies and things like that. And I had never taken the time prior to that to really set aside time in my day for Bible study and prayer. I mean, consistently. And through that church experience, I got in the habit of doing that, which I continue on today. I'm not saying I do it perfectly 365 days, but more days than not. As soon as I wake up, it's like part of my morning routine.
Yes.
And that is something probably that I'm most proud of, because it's helped me grow spiritually, in a way that I don't think would have happened had I not changed my schedule to incorporate that and do it early in the morning. Because in the evenings, I'm tired. I'm mostly an introvert. So when I'm done talking to folks all day, I need to just retreat and be quiet. And I don't want to hear. I don't want to talk. I don't want to think. I just want to be still. So that has really been, I think, the number one thing that has helped me grow spiritually, and of course from that grow personally and relationally. So yeah.
It's so good. I want to be respectful of you all's time, so I'll have one more question for each of you. They're different. You mentioned something about putting yourself out there, Victoria, and then coming home and really being by yourself to recharge your batteries. Amy, how do you recharge your batteries on a regular basis that honors yourself and your journey?
Yeah. So I try to do something from all the categories. That's part of the problem of understanding brain health and wholeness and wellness, is that you're like, okay, what did I do today that fed me nutritionally? Maybe that's just taking a vitamin. I'm on a big creatine kick, which I'm a big proponent for creatine.
Yes.
I physically can feel the difference the days I take it and the days I don't take it. And then I also, I don't even know what the term is. I can come across as an extrovert, but I really do. I'm a homebody. So the things I like to do is I'm into incline walking right now, which feeds my efficiency need to get sweaty and my heart rate up as quick as possible for as long as possible in a short amount of time, and get off the treadmill or get so either hill walking or incline walking. I am a huge historical show addict. Like, I can watch Pride and Prejudice a million times. I'm right now watching Lark Rise to Candleford, which my husband has been giving me unceaseless ribbing about the title. But it's on my BritBox subscription, and just to go, to sit for what they're 45 minutes episodes. If I can sneak one or two of those in, I can transport a little bit in time, and it's all about relationships. So having other people in angst and seeing them get that resolved, set back in the 1800s, is awesome. So that's what I do to unwind. I try to do something. Definitely, I have a ritual every morning too of getting in God's word, and gratitude is a big.
Yes.
My husband and I have a little mantra, like, anytime where we get a little overwhelmed, a little down, we say to each other, count your blessings. Yes. Verbally, there's something about hearing the self-talk that we say to ourselves that we never hear, except internally. You've got to counter that with verbal. So we will literally count each other's blessings and count our blessings for each other sometimes, to remind each other, today's great. Today's going to be good. Yes, we're going to have challenges, but today's going to be good. And that really helps. All of that helps reset us and reset me.
Yeah, that is so good. So Victoria, I never realized I was an introvert and an extrovert until probably the last 5 years. So recharging your batteries, what has honored you in that important part of recharging Victoria?
So I'd like to be able to sit here and say, oh man, at the end of the day, I go down to the gym and I lift weights and I do strength training and I do heel incline, whatever that word was Amy used. But I don't do any of that. I am a couch potato. That's how I recharge. I get on the couch, I turn the TV on, occasionally, if I'm reading, I am in a book club, but we only meet every other month. So I'm a procrastinator. So I usually wait like 2 weeks before we meet and start reading the book. But I'm a couch potato. That's how I recharge,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I just get really, you know, I just sort of tune stuff out, and yeah.
Hey, we're all so different, and we have to find those ways that really honor us.
Absolutely.
So I have one final question after this, but tell Victoria, how do people get a hold of you? And then I'll ask the same from Amy.
Thank you. So I am Care Patrol Metro Atlanta, and my phone number is 404-583-1231, or you can certainly go to carepatrol.com /Metro -Atlanta, and you can go to my website, but the phone number is the quickest and easiest way to reach me.
Awesome. And for those, if you're driving and you were just hearing that, we'll put it in the show notes so you can just click on there and be able to get a hold and be able to find out more about NPRA and what Victoria does and what Amy does. But Amy, tell our viewers, how can they get a hold of you?
I mean, the quickest, best way is our website, seniorprovisions.com. And they can connect through our contact form. They can call us directly. We have phone number 888-979-TRUE. And if you are interested in becoming an affiliate member, a senior living community that might be listening, you're like, hey, I would love to connect and interact with almost 40 referral agencies in Greater Atlanta and Greater Georgia. Go to npraalliance.org or reach out to either Victoria or myself, and we will make sure you get connected. We have an upcoming meeting, Pete, if it's okay if I announce it.
Absolutely.
Okay, August 21st at Summerbee of Sandy Springs. We have a great panel discussion with Georgia Senior Living Association members and leadership, and the Attorney General's office is sending over their representative. We're going to be discussing SB 439 and implementation of that disclosure law that passed July 1st and was signed into law July 1st. And we'd love to, that's open to the public. Again, reach out to either one of us for information on attending that meeting.
That is awesome. Okay, we'll put that information in the show notes too. So Victoria, what would be the one thing, and then I'll ask Amy the same thing, what would be the one thing you would want our viewers to take home from our time on this podcast?
Well, we've covered a range of topics. I think for anyone who is a senior or an adult child who is in the role of caregiving for their aging loved ones or their spouse, I would say self-care is critically important. And we have lots of ideas on how to accomplish that. You know, we work with wonderful senior living communities, and we also have a host of other resources out there that we can, talk with families about. I want your audience to know that we are both here to be resources to the community, and particularly to seniors and their families.
Awesome. How about yourself, Amy? What would you want our viewers to take home? The one thing.
Piggyback on that self-care. I don't think there's a lot of times caregivers are like, I don't have time for self-care. That all sounds great, but I literally am in the weeds. I think the number one thing you can do for self-care is to reach out to a trusted, vetted organization like our agencies for help and resources. That is ultimately, I would say, you don't have to go this alone. You can do a lot of things alone. This is the one thing you don't need to do alone, and you shouldn't have to do alone. So that's a great self-care.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you both for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us and to share your journeys with our community. It's so important that they hear from people that are out there making that impact and knowing the things that are available out there to support them in their journey. So thank you so much for your time this morning.